This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, it's time for the Monday Night Raw review. It's Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. A lot happened last night, and there was a common theme, I thought, and that was, as you may have deciphered from the title of this show, fiery promos. And not just fiery, but really good promos from three individuals specifically: Cody Rhodes, Becky Lynch, and Sami Zayn. And we're going to get into all of them in just 1 minute, as well as Gunther, who came to Monday Night Raw and made a big impact in Imperium in multiple ways, as well as Paul Heyman coming to Raw as a visitor. Now, one part of me wants to say I told you so. They couldn't even wait a week before SmackDown stars appear on Raw, or vice versa, but the only excuse I'll give them is that Paul Heyman's not an active competitor. I know that he was drafted as kind of a part of the bloodline, but he's not an in-ring competitor. He's simply a mouthpiece. So I still don't like it. I mean, they're literally 1 week into the draft, and they already have a SmackDown quote-unquote star on Raw. But if you're going to have somebody there in a non-wrestling capacity who is not a competitor, then Paul Heyman is the guy that you go to, the guy that you can make an excuse for. I still am off-put by how Paul Heyman talks into his phone. He's talking into the earpiece. Hey, Paul, the microphones on your iPhone are located at the bottom of your phone. It's like watching my grandma try to use a modern piece of technology. It's painful. If you're gonna do it right, Paul. That's the one criticism I have. And he's done this for months. Use it properly. Do you see anyone talking into their phone the way Paul Heyman does? No. You look like a fool. It's a small gripe, I understand. But it's happening all the time now. And then we all know who he's talking to. Of course, it's Roman Reigns, doing scouting, doing manipulation on behalf of Roman Reigns, reporting back to Roman Reigns. That is what's happening here in storyline. But for the love of God, Paul, just fix this little detail. Speak into the correct part of the phone. No one talks to their earpiece. All right, I've made my point. But other than that, I think Monday Night Raw was a very solid show heading into the final build for Night of Champions, which is already a week and change away. Unbelievably, we have just completely, we're in some kind of time machine going from Backlash to Night of Champions, which is next Saturday, not this, next Saturday night in Saudi Arabia, which is just really crazy to me. It just feels so quick. But then after that, we've got a bit of a long gap between Night of Champions and Money in the Bank, because Night of Champions is the end of May 26th, I think it is. And then we don't have another pay-per-view until July 1st. So that's about, 5 weeks? So it'll feel a little bit longer the next time around. But we don't have another pay-per-view in the States until SummerSlam in Detroit at the beginning of August. So let that sink in. We get some international audiences, treated to some international audiences for 3 pay-per-views in a row, premium live events in a row, and then we get back to the States. So it's going to make the States look like, it's a moratorium. I mean, it's going to be so quiet compared to London, and earlier in the year we had Montreal, and now we're going to have Saudi Arabia. We had Puerto Rico most recently. And then we're going to go to Detroit, Michigan, which, if you didn't have those crowds to compare it to, in its own right would be loud. But now that the bar has been set so high, when we listen to the crowd in Detroit, it is going to sound like, you're in church on a Sunday morning, right? So, alrighty. So let's get into the nitty gritty of Raw. And Sami Zayn came out and was immediately at 100, and he even said that. And he said that they're facing about as big of a threat as there is on paper, and that they get another shot at Roman Reigns at Revenge. And then he said Owens should have beaten Reigns for the title. He said Universal. It was actually the Undisputed, but there were times when Roman did face Kevin for the Undisputed or the Universal. Nonetheless, we knew what he meant. And he said that Reigns has been cheating his way through the whole title reign, and that he's been unchecked for too long, and now we're going to check you. And Reigns is pushing the Usos too far and too hard, and it's not enough for Reigns to hold 2 championships. He called Reigns a psycho and said he may want the tag titles, but he can't have them. This was really good by Sami Zayn. It repositioned him back into a place at the forefront of most fans' minds, where he kind of has gone after the Elimination Chamber, has gone into this kind of funk. And it's weird to say that, given that he main evented WrestleMania on night 1 with Kevin Owens and they won the tag titles. But after you come off of Elimination Chamber, which was the picture-perfect place for Roman to drop it, it's a perfect place, perfect time, perfect person. I believe it was. I still believe that. I don't go back on it. It's only downhill from there. If you look back at Sami Zayn's career, many people still may point to that moment in Montreal as his pinnacle moment, even though he didn't win. Because of the crowd reaction, the organic love for Sami, the great storytelling going into this, I think many people will look back at that and still point to it as the pinnacle of his career, and it was all downhill from there. Not into a bottomless pit, but kind of, you can't stay at that level. You descend into the level or two lower, and then you kind of sit there for a while, maybe go up, go down. But the highest point may be that point, that night in Montreal just a few months ago. But all right, back to Monday Night Raw. Again, this was a really good promo for Zayn that was well needed, much needed, and it was much needed for the program of Solo and Roman Reigns against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Calling Reigns a psycho, why did that fit so well? I feel like it shouldn't have fit so well, and it seems kind of like an elementary insult, but it's also a perfect description of his character. It's simple, but boy, I found that very surprisingly effective to call Roman Reigns a psycho. The way Sami delivered that line was also picture perfect. And it just reminded you how good Sami Zayn can be on the mic. And there is an argument to be made that Sami and Kevin could lose the belts. I've been waffling back and forth. I still don't have an official prediction. That, of course, comes towards the end of next week with our official prediction show. I still don't know. I know I've gone back and forth, but we'll see what the next couple of weeks bring with television. And then, of course, I'll make our decision. Now, that brought out the Judgment Day. Kevin Owens said, you guys are clearly out here to just fight. Let's do this. And that's ultimately what it came down to. However, there is and was some fun to be had with Dominic and how Kevin says that the people love you and I can't hear what you're saying, and playing off the fact that he knows the crowd is just going to absolutely bury him. And is there a single person on the roster right now that gets and continues to get more heat than Dominick Mysterio on the microphone? There isn't. Dominic has played this better than anyone could have imagined. I knew he was a better heel than he was a babyface. He was awful, boring, stomach churning as a babyface with his dad. And then, obviously he had the heel turn. I said, this is going to be fun. I didn't know to this level, though. Nobody could have expected how good Dominic would be as a heel naturally. See, that's the thing. I think natural, organic heat, that trumps trying to manufacture heat from a promo. Maybe you don't feel the character. They just don't feel like somebody you dislike, and they're trying to force it down your throat that, no, you need to hate this person, and you just don't. It actually has proven to be the opposite in Dominick's case, where Dominick doesn't cut great promos. He cuts decent promos. He knows how to use his skills to the max, but he doesn't cut great promos, and yet he's the number one heel in the company, arguably. And it just goes to show that presence, look, and just plain story without even great promos can lead to these types of reactions when it's the right person cast into the right position. And that's the best thing about this that Dom has going, is he's been perfectly cast, growing out his hair like a punk. He looks like a loudmouth SOB that, as I've mentioned before, we can relate to that bully in high school. He kind of looks like that dude that only ran his mouth when he had backup and cowers when he doesn't. It's just, he fits it perfectly, and I've got nothing but respect for everything that Dom has done and the Judgment Day has done and creative has done with him. It's all been magic. And I can see Dominick winning gold at some point this year in 2023. It's not going to be a top belt. It's not, I don't think it would be a world heavyweight championship style or type of belt, but I think he could capture tag team gold with Finn or Damian and brag about that. Or maybe he can get into the IC title hunt, maybe. But coming off of a long Gunther run, whenever you want to drop that, going to another heel doesn't make sense. Anyway, I'm just giving praise to the whole Dominick story and really Judgment Day as well. And this again was a good opening segment. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was not too long. It continued to move things forward in a way that allows new stories, new matchups. And what I'm talking about is the Dominick, or rather Finn and Damian versus KO and Sami that ended up main eventing the show. And we'll get to that a little bit later on here. Shinsuke versus The Miz happened next. Shinsuke beat The Miz in about 9 minutes. And he hit the Kinshasa and got the victory. Fine match here. I guess every Miz match, most of them, I shouldn't say every, most Miz matches just kind of feel the same to me. He doesn't bring a whole lot of variety, but that's been the MO for The Miz forever. Promo-wise, character-wise, music-wise, everything is just the same. It's just, it's almost like he is a robot. I mean, I don't mean he moves robotically or speaks robotically. It's just he's in a pattern of comfortability, which, of course, in and of itself stunts growth. But when Shinsuke Nakamura beat The Miz here, and that's fine. Shinsuke is in the pecking order of things currently higher than The Miz. That's what this was about, and that's fine. Again, Shinsuke getting a victory. Shinsuke at least getting time. This did not make the Hulu cut, though, so that tells you all you need to know also about what the implications of this match really mean, and that is we need TV time. We got a lot of TV time. We need to fill TV time. This is a quality match. It's a heel versus a babyface. The heel's going to lose here. Shinsuke needs some on-air minutes. Let's give it to him and move on. And that's kind of what this was. All right, backstage, Adam Pearce said Liv Morgan was not medically cleared to compete, and therefore the women's tag team title match was postponed. DeVille and Green were skeptical of the injury, and DeVille suggested that Rodriguez and Morgan be forced to forfeit the tag titles, and Rodriguez said she'd be happy to defend Morgan's honor by facing Green. And then Pearce booked the singles match. And then Rodriguez called Chelsea Green Karen. I mean, that's been the general consensus among social media fans, which are normal fans, I guess. We're just on social media. That's been what she's mimicked the character after is a quote unquote Karen. And now that to me is, and I'm not offended by it, but it is the definition of a racial slur. I mean, that's what it is. We all know the big racial slurs, right? We all know what those are. but it applies across the board no matter what race you are, right? Like black, brown, green, white, doesn't matter. Racial slurs are colorblind because they can exist in any color depending on who you're directing them at. And I mean, Karen is a racial slur. It just is. And it's just been accepted into the mainstream culture as something that's okay to say no matter who you are. And again, I'm not personally offended. I'm not offended on behalf of somebody else. I'm not pretending to be offended on behalf of somebody else that a lot of people tend to do these days. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just pointing out a simple fact that, by definition, Karen, calling somebody a Karen is a racial slur. That's all. I mean, that's just what it is. That said, I do enjoy the Chelsea Green character. I do. I think it's growing on me week by week with how she's just diving into this character. She's being the most obnoxious version of somebody that she can be. And I feel like a little bit of Michelle McCool. Remember Laycool? Remember Laycool? That group, she feels a little bit like that. I really hated Laycool. Layla and Michelle McCool, I really despise that group. They were at points an embarrassment. However, Laycool, during a Raw retro show, I believe it was Raw Throwback or whatever, when Mean Gene Okerlund was there with, who was it? Mae Young. And Laycool and Mae Young had an interaction that went sideways because Mae Young forgot her lines or couldn't hear or whatever, and ended up calling Laycool the SLU, and you can finish the rest of the word. It's PG podcast here. It's all over YouTube. It's one of the funniest moments ever in WWE for me. Even you could hear Jerry the King Lawler crying, laughing. This is clearly not something she was supposed to say. It was hilarious. And just hearing a 78-year-old woman calling these 20-year-old somethings that word and being sincere about it's one of the funniest moments I've ever seen in wrestling. I remember just absolutely on the floor dying. Anyway, if you want funny moments, that's one. Not family friendly, of course, but still hilarious. So circling all the way back to this, we get Chelsea Green and Raquel Rodriguez, and that's what set up that match, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So, pre-taped Graves sit-down interview with Seth Rollins aired, and then footage aired from his NXT days, including when he won the NXT Championship, and they touched on his days with the Shield, and some footage was shown, including when he turned on Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. Is there a single piece of footage, by the way, in WWE history that they have played more than Seth Rollins hitting Roman Reigns in the back with a chair when he turned on the Shield? Maybe Andre the Giant being slammed by Hulk Hogan is one. Maybe a Stone Cold Rock moment. But the moment of Seth Rollins backstabbing Roman Reigns in the Shield may be the single most played piece of footage in WWE history. It's up there, right? I don't hate it per se. It's just every time we turn around, there's some reason to use that piece of footage. Again, just an observation here, I guess. But it was a nice interview. Rollins said people still ask why. He said he'd beaten everyone there was to beat. And if you want to reach the ultimate success, you have to take chances. And Rollins asked what the future would have looked like if he had not hit Reigns with the chair. And they concluded that the first part of the interview with Graves asking about Rollins going after the World Heavyweight Championship. So effective. I think sit-down interviews are sorely underutilized. I don't need them every week. But when somebody's in a funk, or maybe you need to add a new wrinkle to a story and it can't be done on air in a wrestling ring, or you feel like if you do, it's repetitive, a great way to add a little bit of spice to a program, or to introduce a new character, or give some depth to a character that has felt very one-dimensional for a while, sit-down interviews. They do wonders. Hint, hint to Bianca Belair if you don't want to turn her heel. All right, so then we get Gunther and Imperium coming out, and he said he dominated the competition on SmackDown by holding the Intercontinental Championship for nearly a year, and that no man has been identified as his next challenger or has earned his respect. And he said that one man could achieve both by winning the Battle Royal for a shot at his championship. So we got the Battle Royal next. That had Baron Corbin, Zion Quinn, Von Wagner, Akira Tozawa, JD McDonough, Dexter Lumis, Chad Gable, Otis, Angel, Umberto, Dolph Ziggler, Eric, Ivar, Matt Riddle, Apollo Crews, Ricochet, Bronson Reed, Elias, Shelton, Cedric, Mustafa Ali, Johnny Gargano, and Riddick Moss. If you think I rattled those off on memory, of course you are absolutely mistaken. I'm reading this. But, okay. So, Akira Tozawa was eliminated as expected, but he was eliminated very quickly, and he was eliminated by Corbin, who was then eliminated over the top rope by Dexter Lumis, and Mason Mansois eliminated Lumis. And again, it eventually got down to the Viking Raiders fighting with Chad Gable and Otis, and then Eric was knocked off the apron by Otis. Riddle, I actually thought Riddle was going to be the one to win here, and he didn't. I thought that would have been a good match. Clearly, they're saving that for down the line. And it ended up with Ali hitting a missile dropkick on Reed, who was the runner-up here, and eliminated Reed and Ricochet from the match. So Ali wins. And it's just, I'm sure, total coincidence that Mustafa Ali is going to get an Intercontinental Championship match ahead of heading to Saudi Arabia. Just, I'm sure it has nothing to do with his nationality. I really don't care. It's just funny how these guys and gals come out of the woodwork, where if they weren't traveling to a specific country, they would be nowhere near gold. Look at Zelina Vega. I'm a massive fan of Zelina, but the way things were going, do you think if they were going to Puerto Rico that Zelina Vega would get a women's title shot? Hell no. No. Same with Ali. What has he done lately exactly? How many victories has he racked up over the last several months? He had a change in character, being positive. He's kind of the bootleg version of Bo Leave. Is he not? And all of a sudden he wins a Battle Royal and is getting a shot at Gunther. And, he's going to get his ass handed to him, as he should, by Gunther. I hope Gunther absolutely demolishes Mustafa Ali. I really do. Because that's what should happen in my mind. All right. So the Battle Royal was fine, though. It's a Battle Royal, right? There's no real symmetry to the match. There's no real story to tell. It's just kind of order of elimination, who's going to be the last few people. And it was put together fine. And having Ali win was certainly, again, that was actually unexpected to me. I thought Riddle was going to be the favorite to win. Had to be a babyface to win this. And, it'll be fun. As much as I want to see Gunther squash him, they'll still make it interesting where there'll be a hope spot or two for Ali. All right. Let's move on. Let's go to, and by the way, some people are saying Ali is a heel. I don't know what he is. He's closer to a babyface than a heel, I think, because Gunther is disliked and Ali had or was a sentimental favorite. He's not the strongest babyface, but he's closer to a babyface than Gunther is if you're going to assign roles here. So, all right, we got Becky Lynch coming out, and she has a new shirt called Man of the Masses, and a cool shirt. And she said that she's man enough to admit when she's going through stuff, and she's been going through things lately, and that when things become too overwhelming, you have to ask for help. That's why she asked for help from Lita and Trish, and said that she was blinded and didn't see Trish as the snake in the grass that was out for herself. And despite all that, Lynch thanked Stratus, and Lynch explained that when Trish hit her, it was a light that had turned on that had been out for many months. And Lynch recalled Stratus calling her daughter stupid, and that gave her all the badness in her head. I think she probably meant darkness. Is badness a word? She probably meant darkness. But other than that, I'm splitting hairs. She gave the badness in her head a face, a name, and a target. Lynch said Stratus wanted to be number one in the business, and Lynch said that she is that and doesn't need a title to prove it. And she's going to show Trish how thankful she is when she kicks her head in at Night of Champions. I thought this was a really good promo following the fiery promo template that was laid out for Monday night. This was really good for me. Got me interested in this program. And I do want to see Trish get her ass kicked. So mission accomplished there. I mean, I have no problem with this. I don't. So, I mean, I don't know much more to say about it. I'm glad she addressed the personal attack on her daughter. That makes sense. When you attack someone's children verbally, obviously or physically, that's going to set the parent into another level of anger, and that's exactly what Trish, or rather Becky, has shown here. And I think it's believable. I think that this added the fire it needed to this program. One thing, going quickly back to the Battle Royal with JD McDonough attacking Ziggler. I told you guys, the reason that Ziggler and Ali are able to float between brands is because they are the gatekeepers. They are the ones that can work with anybody. And when they're trying to introduce new talent or give somebody a much needed win heading into a pay-per-view where they're having a title defense or a title opportunity, those two guys, Ziggler and Ali, can make anybody look good. They work well with anybody. That's why they are assigned to either brand. They're free agents because WWE needs them to be. And what is Ziggler doing? He's now working with JD McDonough, which WWE did a very nice job with the video package. And if you don't know who JD McDonough is, well, now you do. But it's exactly the role that you'd imagine that the reason why they put Ziggler and Ali in the positions they did with the draft is because they're kind of the gatekeepers and good introductory matches for stars coming up like JD McDonough to have. You're going to have a solid quality match, and they're just kind of a safety net. They're a safe landing zone for WWE, and I get it. Okay. Rhea Ripley was then shown watching Lynch's promo. That was interesting. And Kathy Kelly asked Ripley about Natalya, and Natalya showed up and took issue with Rhea beating up a woman who's already been beaten from last week. And Natalya said Ripley isn't giving her respect to the other women she's been running through, and said that Natalya wanted to be in the ring with her so that people would care about Natalya again. And also that if Natalya ever interrupted her again, she would end her career. And then Dominic came in and told Mommy it's time to go. So, all right. Xavier Woods then came out, and it was Dominic versus Xavier. Dominic was, I mean, you can't even hear what Dominic is saying anymore. He tried to get on the mic, and I mean, it wasn't anything of substance anyway. But Dominic and Xavier have a solid match. But this is all about establishing Dominic, and he beat Xavier in about 10 minutes. And I really enjoy seeing Dominic continue to be victorious and continue to build that heat, continue to make it super annoying that he gets victory after victory after victory, and having Mommy help him out. Do I like the fact that the men are unable to strike the women in self-defense? No, as I've said before, it doesn't make sense. But they have to sell the hell out of her punches and kicks and clotheslines as if it was Yokozuna doing it. It doesn't. I don't like that. And then she's got this just magical force field around her because she's a woman. Makes no sense, right? I mean, on a lot of levels, doesn't make sense in reality or in pro wrestling. Especially pro wrestling, doesn't make sense. But since Rhea is a woman in pro wrestling, she can do what she wants, but doesn't have to deal with any consequences. You can hit whoever you want, intimidate whoever you want in terms of the men, and they can't do anything. Why is that? Oh, because you're a woman? Oh, because that makes sense, right? I'm complaining only for the fact of logic and frustration that the men just, it's like they hit this brick wall and they look at her real mean, but they're like, ho, ho, ho. oh shucks, I can't do anything. It's ridiculous. That said, Rhea and Dom are doing excellent work. It sounds like I'm complaining, but only about that specific part, because other than that, Rhea and Dom have been, well, dominant. They both continue to win. They fit each other perfectly, and the dynamic is very interesting because Rhea Ripley gets a positive reaction, while Dominic gets the polar opposite. Rhea is a fly's hair away, if they wanted to becoming a massive babyface champion. I mean, she kind of already is because of the fans' reaction, but if they ever wanted to fully go that road and have WWE also push her along, boy, they could do it, couldn't they? Oh, yeah. All right. So again, we had the JD McDonough video package aired about the Irish Ace and how he's here to stay. And let's see, we got Jinder Mahal he was shown walking backstage with Veer Mahan and Sangha, and that's at least the end of Sheer. Hey, there you go. End of Sheer gets a little bit more Monday Night Raw exposure. Even if they aren't truly in a program yet, they're getting exposure, even if it's limited. And that to me is important, that they didn't just shovel them off to the side and they called them up from NXT and then they don't do anything with them. Right now, it's just introductory. It's an introductory time or phase for the end of Sheer. So, but they were shown walking backstage, and then here's the part that I didn't see, and this is because it wasn't on Hulu. The end of Sheer did take on 2 local wrestlers, which is exactly why it wasn't on Hulu, but it didn't last long. It was under 2 minutes. Veer Mahan and Sangha got the victory, and then Mahal took the mic and spoke in Hindi briefly, and the broadcast team was talking about the end of Sheer. By the way, does Corey Graves know how to say their name? He's like Indus Shar. Like he can't, or Indus, it's Indus Sheer, right? Am I wrong? Or is Corey Graves wrong? Somebody's pronouncing it wrong. I'm taking my pronunciation from DJ Kuzmo here. Is it Indus Sheer? Even though it is, I guess, if you're gonna say it literally, it would be Indus Sure. No, if there's no accent, it was just plain English. Indus Sure. That doesn't sound cool, does it? Indus Sheer sounds cool. It's got to be that, right? Anyway, if it is, somebody needs to tell Corey Graves because he keeps screwing up the name. Anyway. Mahal said that they run Raw, and Mahal grabbed the mic and said that the End of Sheer runs Raw. Okay. How many times are we going to hear people, oh, this is my show. I run this show. Well, Seth Rollins says it's Monday Night Rollins, and Ronda Rousey always saying this is her show. And, whose show is it? Anyway, we got this matchup. Good exposure. Even though I didn't know that there was an actual match because I just now have seen it and it was under 2 minutes, the fact that they're getting exposure at all on Raw is encouraging, and it's consistent exposure too. That's what I like. I would imagine that these two are eventually going to, Veer Mahan and Sangha are eventually going to face Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for those tag titles if they retain at Night of Champions. Okay. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were approached by Imperium backstage, and Gunther said he wouldn't accept the disrespect that he showed his men, and Owens said they could find a partner and have a 6-man tag match next week, and Gunther accepted. So I would imagine that it's going to be the challenger for the Intercontinental Championship of Ali, but maybe not. He's the logical favorite. I don't know why it wouldn't be Ali, but that said, Cody Rhodes was then shown exiting a bus in the parking area, and we got Cody Rhodes making his entrance. And boy, the crowd loves him. Graves quickly pointed out that Cody couldn't even walk to the ring without favoring the rib. And Cody said that he knew these grounds, this area, and he said this is the first home of Starrcade, and that Brock's not going to be there. And he told the story of the Scorpion and the Frog. And he said the Scorpion stung the Frog because it's his nature, just as it's Lesnar's nature to hunt. So now we've gone from, just to create a flow chart of reasons why Brock has done what he's done to Cody. Ready for it? Because he was upset at the spot that Cody got at WrestleMania versus what he got on the card. We also got the week before, the week after. No, it was the week after that. Cody said, "Well, it's because I'm the agent of change." Suddenly, Brock Lesnar hates change. Okay, that's number 2. And now we are left to decipher. Well, it's because Lesnar's an animal; he likes to hunt. So there's 3 reasons. Well, which one is it? Or maybe, hey, how about this? How about the actual interviewers do their job backstage and say, hey, Lesnar, you never explained why you attacked Cody. Can you just tell us why? I don't even care, like I've said. I don't need this long, mind-blowing explanation. What would be the most effective and actually respectful for the fans to show them you're not letting this plot hole go is Brock could say, I'm Brock effing Lesnar. I do whatever I want. I don't have to answer to you or anyone else or say why I am doing what I'm doing. Sure, it's still lazy creative because that absolves creative from actually coming up with a creative reason or fun or logical reason why Brock attacked Cody. But Brock just saying he does what he wants to do is also based in reality because he does. So, all right. He said that Lesnar was always labeled as the next big thing, and he said they were always right, and asked what happens when they simply say next. Cody said Lesnar has conquered WWE and the sport, but he needs to step aside because he's no longer the big thing. He's simply in the way. I like this. It was to the point. It wasn't too long of a promo, and it was a nice push forward for their match at Night of Champions. And the big thing here, he also said, how's your face? He kept talking about Brock Lesnar's face, his face, because it got busted open. So Cody is antagonizing Brock and moving this program forward. Also a fiery promo from Cody. I mean, again, really good promos from everyone last night. I can't remember the last time that we had 3 successful promos that all kind of followed the same tempo and energy level for 3 totally separate programs that all felt successful. So hats off to all individuals for these really well done promos last night. All right. Then we get Raquel Rodriguez, or rather Zoe Stark backstage talking to Nikki Cross, who was playing with her hair and not paying much attention. Candice LeRae showed up and defended Cross, and then Stark and LeRae set up a match for next week. That's really kind of it. All right. Raquel Rodriguez versus Chelsea Green. Quick match. Raquel beat Chelsea in 3 minutes and 40 seconds after the Tejana bomb. And then Rodriguez went to the stage and held up her tag team title, but then Ronda Rousey appeared while kicking Rodriguez, and Shayna Baszler showed up and fired punches also, and Rousey took the mic and introduced Rodriguez as a tag team champion, and Rousey asked Rodriguez what she was supposed to do with her title, or what she was supposed to do, and said it was rhetorical, and the answer is defend it. And Ronda Rousey grabbed Rodriguez and held her while Baszler blasted her with a knee to the face. So here, I'm glad Ronda Rousey's back from the perspective of she is star power. She can be good in the ring. When she wants to and be focused on the microphone, she can have a good promo. I'm still not a fan of Ronda Rousey. If you think I'm changing my opinion, I'm not. But her and Shayna never got their due. They won at WrestleMania, and I hope that's also brought up, that they won the showcase tag team match for the women, and that team was supposed to get a title opportunity in the future, and that was never cashed in on. So I hope they bring that up, because wins and losses should have consequences. It should be double so at WrestleMania, and I hope that they bring that up. And they're going right to a program with Liv and Raquel. So that would tell me that they are retaining, or rather challenging Raquel and Liv for the tag team titles and likely beat them. That's my guess. All right. But by the way, Having Ronda Rousey hold the hair of Rodriguez like a cartoon was a little ridiculous. It shouldn't have lasted. I could have seen it happen if she was beat down where she could like barely defend herself and was half knocked out. That wasn't the case. Rodriguez was just acting like, I'm trying to put the visual in your head. When you watch a cartoon and you see one character trying to punch the other character, and the bigger character is just holding out their hand and holding the head of somebody, and they're just like swinging wildly with their arms. That's kind of the way I felt with Rodriguez here, where she suddenly she can get out of all these wrestling holds and everything else, but she can't handle a simple hair grab from the back from Ronda Rousey. I mean, and she held it there for a long time. Rodriguez was like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to sit here like a child. It was weird. It just went on too long. But I don't think Rodriguez is fit to be a babyface, to be honest. I mean, I say the same thing about Ronda. I'm not advocating for Ronda to turn babyface, but I also feel the same about Raquel. I don't think she's cut out to be a babyface. I've said this for weeks. There was even a week that she went heel and kind of made fun of Liv and played mean girl, and she's just made to be a heel. And they're continuing to push her as a babyface, and it seems like that's the road, at least in the short term, they're going to take as she teams up with Liv to take on, presumably, Shayna and Ronda Rousey for the tag team titles. So, all right, moving on. We got Paul Heyman reaching his hand out and shook hands with Gunther backstage. That was interesting, a very interesting dynamic, and that was very... I didn't know what to make of it at first, and then you realize, oh, well, clearly they struck a short-term deal to try to, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. We then get a second part of Graves' interview with Rollins, and Graves brought up the iterations of Rollins we've seen since he left the Shield and asked why the current iterations of Rollins is the best. And Rollins called himself a visionary and said he's off the rails. Rollins said that this is the most authentic version of his true self, and for the first time in his career, he's not forcing the change, but rather the fans are forcing the change in him. And then Graves asked why the time is right for a new championship and why Rollins is the guy to hold it. And Rollins said he hates to say it, but, quote, we need a change again. And that he doesn't feel that those at the top want to take any risks. And he said that the champions are more about protecting themselves than taking the industry forward. And now is the perfect time for a new heavyweight champion. And then in conclusion, Graves asked Rollins about Roman Reigns and his championship reign. Rollins said he knew that Graves was going to get there. And Rollins removed his shades, took a deep breath, and then the video concluded. And then said that the next part would air next week and Rollins would ruffle a lot of feathers. So, guys, could it be happening? Could somehow, some way, Seth Rollins be finally, in some magical way, getting into a program with Roman? I don't know. It certainly seems that way. He says he's going to ruffle some feathers. And when things conclude with the fact that he's going to talk about Roman Reigns next week, you would imagine they're getting there, or at least laying the foundation for whenever they do get there. I don't know how. Trade, Rumble, I don't know. Maybe there's some inter-promotional match. I'm not sure how they get there. But you can't have Rollins end it like this and then have it go nowhere. You just can't do it. They're setting up for something. And I love it. Because Rollins Reigns, I don't want it to be a one-off. When this does happen, it's not going to be Rumble 2022, okay? It needs to be properly done, multi-month program with Rollins. Because there's too much history there to just do a one-off. All right. So here's what's happening next week on Raw. Before we get to the main event. Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes will both be under the same roof. Becky Lynch and Trish will be in a contract signing for the Night of Champions. And then Kevin, Sami, and a mystery partner, which I would imagine is, again, Ali, Mustafa Ali. Maybe I'm wrong, but you'd imagine it's him, versus Imperium of Gunther, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci. So that's a hell of a main event. I mean, if that's the main event of next week's Monday Night Raw, sign me up, man. All right. Also, Candice LeRae will face Zoe Stark if you're interested in such things. Oh, Apollo Crews also got a video. That, to me, the Apollo Crews video was interesting. I mean, if you didn't watch NXT, the last you saw of Apollo Crews is he was suddenly readopting his native tongue with the accent. He refound it. He was traveling around with Commander Aziz that held a giant Q-tip, and that was it. And he faced, was it Big E for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania a couple of years ago? And then after that, Apollo Crews fell off a damn cliff. That's, if you didn't watch NXT, that's the last thing you remember. But this video was much more authentic of whoever he is as a person. Crews said it's not a gift and nothing was handed to him, and that he's a former U.S. champion, a former Intercontinental champion, and no one should say his name without putting some respect on it. And that Crews said he earned his way back. Good stuff. It just felt like, cool. We're going to get an authentic version of Apollo, whatever that may be. So, by the way, whatever happened to Lacey Evans? Anybody know? Those of you out there that are more privy to the news cycle than I am, what the hell ever happened to Lacey Evans? Is she still at boot camp with makeup on? Maybe she's crawling through the mud under barbed wire with the makeup on. That's probably what she's doing. I answered my own question. All right, the Intercontinental Champ, or the Undisputed Tag Team Championships of KO and Sami then took on Damian Priest and Finn Balor, and this was a long match. I think it was about 15 minutes, and it ended with Damian Priest and Finn Balor beating Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in 20 minutes, 21 minutes to be exact. Long main event. And the deck was stacked, right? Well, we learned that the handshake meant that the Imperium was going to help cost Sami and Kevin the match, which is exactly what they did. And having Sami and Kevin lose here is okay. I mean, they eventually need to taste defeat, even if it's in non-title capacity. So this is fine for me. It was, I don't know if it was necessarily needed to be this long. That felt like such a long main event. Even though it was a professional, well done, just kind of crisp match, still, I felt it was a little bit long in the tooth, as they say, but it made the point of having the deck stacked against the baby faces, a short-term alliance between Imperium and the Bloodline. Good stuff. I mean, I don't know if Paul Heyman needed to be there as he got the visitor's badge. But as I said, that's kind of the game they play with the draft. So, well, I think that's going to do it, guys. That is the full Monday Night Raw review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to help support the show, guys, there's so many ways to do it. You can head on over to WWEpodcastshop.com. Tons of merchandise for you on that site. If you want to order a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, great for summertime and heading into the fall eventually. Phone cases, koozies, you name it, it's there. Also, patreon.com/WWE podcast is the way to go. You can head on over there and get yourself an ad-free experience, because I know those ads, I know they're not fun to listen to. They disrupt your listening experience. So why let it disrupt your listening experience? Go ad-free. By the way, I'd like to welcome Justin Lair. I hope I said that right. Justin Lair. I'll say Lair. Hope you enjoy your experience. From what I understand, you've been listening for a while and finally made the jump to the ad-free experience. And welcome to the family, brother. Hope you enjoy your stay, and hope everybody enjoys the ad-free experience over there at patreon.com/WWE podcast. Exclusive shows, ad-free. And even if you go up high enough, you can get on the show and do a show with me. So that'll do it for me, guys. Head on Apple Podcasts if you want to go ad-free as well, or wwepodcast.com, and there's an ad-free button there. Until then, guys, take care, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.